If you were trying to figure out what is all the money in the world, where would you start? What would be included? When I first heard this question, it sounded like a pretty simple idea. However, for the last couple of weeks, I guess maybe a couple of months almost, I've been part of this group that's establishing the fair market value of XRP. And one of the models, or several of them actually, address this fundamental question of if all the money were to move onto the blockchain, XYZ, we got to start with this first thing is what is all the money? And in that pursuit of figuring that out, me and others have come across some really bizarre, strange things that are, quote, money that I had zero idea existed. And today we're going to talk about one of those things called the North American Water and Power Alliance, which I had never heard about. First time I heard Jimmy bring this up, I thought he was talking about like a utility company, and there was a $14.3 quadrillion lien. I was like, wow, like a lien happens like when you don't pay your taxes, right? And the house can have a lien on it. Does this mean that like so many people or somebody didn't pay this water bill that's now 14.3 quadrillion? So I was absolutely incorrect. It has nothing to do with a water bill. And it is much more bizarre and strange and disturbing and is a massive amount of money, $14.3 quadrillion, which our human minds can't even process how much money that is. So that's what we're going to do in today's show. We're going to break down what is the North American Water and Power Alliance, why do they owe all this money? Like, why does it represent all this value, I guess? And what are the sort of strange, bizarre things that we have found? The story of the North American Water and Power Alliance starts with this article published on stateofthenation2012.com. It claims that a $14.3 quadrillion lien has been taken out against all United States land, real estate, and people in July of 2011. Like, that's an extraordinary amount of money and a bizarre arrangement that a loan was taken out that used essentially everything in the United States as collateral. Most significantly, the people, the citizens of the United States as collateral against a loan. That sounds kind of crazy. So that's what we're going to dig into is what exactly is the North American Water and Power Alliance, and what on earth do they need all this money for? And who gave them the authority to take out a loan using me and you and anyone else who's an American who happens to be listening to this, gave them the right to use us as collateral? I certainly did not grant anyone that permission. Okay, so let's dig into, before we get into the dollar amount and this lien, let's talk about the North American Water and Power Alliance. So quite a few published sites that cover this. It was created back in the 1950s and 60s to divert water for the purposes of minimizing like droughts and flood damage. So this is not an unusual thing. Where I live in Georgia, there's actually no natural lakes in the entire state, actually. And so lots of water is diverted, dammed, etc., to the purposes of managing that type of thing. So not a totally crazy idea. When you read about this, though, it sounds like nothing really came from it. For example, from Wikipedia, implementation of NAWAPA, I'm not sure if that's how you say it, but that's what the North American Water Power Alliance, has not been seriously considered since the 70s due to the array of environmental, economic, and diplomatic issues raised by the process. So by reading this Wikipedia page, it kind of sounds like it's a bit of a dead deal, like this sort of historical thing that, was considered decades ago, but nothing really came from it. And then you kind of look some more, you can see this is really primarily focused on the western half of the United States, multiple articles about it, again, referencing back to the 60s. Doesn't really sound like anything active is going on with this per some of these online documents. Well, let's go back to this article here. What it says is that the United States citizens and land were used as collateral against the loan. Where do we see some documentation from that? And that is where we get into some interesting links where this is linked down here. I'm going to show you what it looks like here. So there is an official, very official looking document called the UCC. We have what a real UCC is here. This is, a form that you could fill out. It's an online form. It's a PDF that you can fill out and you file with the government agency. So this is a legit US document. And UCC stands for Universal Commercial Code. You can see this was filed with the court. It is dated 2011, which is interesting because remember, we just read that this project, according to Wikipedia, died back in the 70s. And lots of official sounding departments here. We have Department of Defense, we have Department of Assessments and Taxation. We scroll down here. So let's kind of break down what this very official, stamped by the clerk or whomever document. And you can see how there's like a sticker that's covering up this barcode. Remember, this is what this actual legit form looks like. It is sent to the Department of Defense, Department of Homeland Security, and the debtor, meaning if you are a debtor, you are the person taking out a loan because you will be in debt. The debtor is the Federal Reserve System. The amount of this loan, so hard to figure out with all these zeros, it doesn't fit in the box. It is 14.3 quadrillion, which is impossible for the human mind to even process that much money. All right, some other interesting things here. The organizer's name, E Pluribus Unum, the United States of America. Interesting here. Here we see this 14 quadrillion again. I'm not even sure they're getting all the zeros in there. The organizer's name is Department of the Treasury. And again, I'm not really clear on the difference between number 2 and number 3. I guess these are additional debtors, meaning they are kind of participating in this loan. But the interesting thing comes down here. Where is it? Here we go, our 14.3 again. Here's where it gets interesting. This financing statement covers, and there's a bunch of check boxes, collateral, or is filed as a check fixture filing, a description of the real estate. That is my interpretation. This is what is being used as collateral for this loan. As all real men with legs, hands and legs, and all real land in the United States of America, 14 quadrillion, with trust in God, this real estate is with the public. That's kind of crazy, isn't it? And to make this a little bit more legitimate, this official document has a little brochure that is scanned from the North American Water and Power Alliance. Now, it's hard to read as it is, so I took some screenshots that we're going to go over. All right, a little bit more about NAPPA. The implementation of NAPPA means making the bold decision to solve the long-term needs of mankind for the next 50 years in the management of water and other presently known and new resources. It means a civilization taking its destiny into its own hands by managing continental and global characteristics instead of local ones. NAPPA itself creates directly and indirectly 4 million jobs, plus close to an additional 1.5 million jobs through applications of nuclear technologies for 30,000 megawatt pumping requirements of the system for a total of 5.5 million jobs. Okay, so the sales pitch here is that we're going to create some new jobs. Second thing, water management. Due to its specific topographical shape and ocean air currents, a quarter of all the rain and snow that hits the ground in North America each year falls into a narrow corridor of the continent with 800 million acre feet per year running directly into the Pacific and Arctic Oceans, unused by the biosphere on land and wasted. Meanwhile, a large swath of the western half of the continent remains dry and barren. So this goes back to what we saw in the original Wikipedia links, that the concern here is water management and rerouting rivers and streams to sort of avoid floods in one area and droughts in another. All right, the next interesting nugget here gets into some more scientific advancement. And remember, this document is from 2011, so 12 years ago. Along with its planetary effects as a continental water management system, NAPPA is a science driver in the true sense of the accomplishment. So they're going to build a reservoir management system at scale. Again, not shocking. Then we have the creation of large tunnels totaling 1,000 miles, typify the great advancements to be made in geological mapping, as well as fundamental discoveries of understanding the understanding of life's creation of the Earth's crust and the nature of its useful biogenic ores. So they're going to build a big tunnel system using a loan that we are signing for. Next thing, this is interesting. The creation of a permanent presence of civilization in the northern regions will transform our current scientific perspective of the Arctic from isolated research stations in remote and dangerous conditions into an active scientific capability. With the Arctic's unique proximity to the singular electromagnetic conditions of the polar regions, the complex of electromagnetic relationships defining the Earth-Sun magnetic interaction and determining the evolutionary processes of the biosphere will finally be integrated with the power of man's understanding. Okay, they're going to be building a whole bunch of stuff to live in the Arctic. Now, as a signer of this loan, I'm like I basically co-signed for this in essence. Would like to be told about this particular project. It's 12 years old. You borrowed this money using my name. Why don't I know about this? I didn't agree to this tunnel system. I would like to know what the status is of this Arctic project. Okay. With a restored non crisis management approach to the hydrological cycle, new breakthroughs will be made in the biospheric engineering of climate, plant life, groundwater, and soils. I'm not exactly sure what that means. It sounds like they're doing some kind of sort of climate slash GMO type research. We'll see. Through close management of NAPPA's 240 reservoirs, not only will the continent's production of fish and aquatic protein multiply several fold, but new frontiers will be breached. So it sounds like they're going to be doing some kind of fish farming. Okay, that's not that big a deal. What on earth do you need quadrillions of dollars for? However, the tunnel thing, I get that's pretty expensive. There are a couple other components in this brochure that I just wanted to cover. It really gets into some additional reservoirs for water management, which is not shocking considering the original scope of the project, as well as some hydropower. Now we have some nuclear related things, a nuclear renaissance, a 2450 foot Idaho sawtooth lift necessitating 26,000 megawatts of power for something. A nuclear powered industrial complex looks like it's part of this. There are also some additional works with the Canadian and Great Lakes seaways, as well as a pretty extensive rail construction of 2,200 miles of new rails. So it looks like this comprehensive package does touch on a lot of the original kind of elements to the project that was supposedly tabled back in the 70s. The neat or surprising element, in actually my opinion, was just the tunnels. Regardless, this project at $14.3 quadrillion was paid for using us as collateral. And when you are trying to understand all of the money that exists in the world, because we live in a monetary system that debt is money, means that this 14.3 quadrillion is money. And if you are looking to understand all of the value that exists in the monetary system, this is part of it. So I just wanted to cover this kind of strange, bizarre element to this project I'm working on to quantify all the money in the world. We stumbled across this lien taken out by the North American Water and Power Association, where every American citizen and all of the land of the United States is pledged as collateral for this loan. So, my conclusions from looking into this North American Water and Power Alliance is that the US government is not being very forthcoming about what they are using us for. And I certainly have never agreed to be collateral for a loan. And it does lead to this rabbit hole, which we'll cover in another video, about whether or not the US government is actually a government at all, or was it migrated to an actual corporate structure many, many years ago. And us citizens have been employees of this corporation and consequently used as collateral for loans, which again is not the agreement I think any of us made. I do not believe that was the founding fathers' vision when the United States was first established. And collectively, we would be best to learn about all this stuff so we can decide if this is the structure that we would like to live under. If you like this video, please hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and I'll see you in the next one.